My dear friends, this is a very important Star Wars news update. We've got our first big official information for the Acolyte Season 1 coming in summer of 2024. In case you don't know, of all the shows we're expecting for next year, which includes The Bad Batch, maybe Tales of the Jedi Season 2, but definitely Skeleton Crew and The Acolyte, the latter is the flagship show. According to Making Star Wars, this is the show that's receiving all of the big money for the marketing from Disney and Lucasfilm. You're going to see it on billboards, you're going to see it on buses, similar to how they marketed Ahsoka, but a bit more aggressive. Because this is the beginning of a big initiative for Lucasfilm, the High Republic coming into live action. Now on top of this information, Night Edge Media, who tend to post about pop culture news and rumours, have got an exclusive, the full writer's room for The Acolyte. Season 1, just like Mando and Ahsoka, has 8 episodes. And we've also got a stellar list of writers. And I must say, many of these are very impressive. We have people who've worked on the likes of House of the Dragon, HBO's Watchmen, Mr. Robot, Russian Doll of course, WandaVision, Welcome to Derry, and more. And I get it, many of the names I've listed may or may not mean anything, but there is no doubt there is a range of shared experience in the industry. Some of these writers have worked on some massive shows for streaming services, and maybe to some extent we can breathe a sigh of relief. So much of the press and the chit-chat surrounding this show has been so negative up until this point, whether it's costume design from leaked photos from the sets, or comments made by Leslye Headland about George Lucas. And I know, so many headlines are sensationalized, so it's good to get a rather calm, tame, and positive update for this series. And so assuming this report is true, there is some great talent to look forward to on the writing side of things. And that's another brilliant piece of news. There's a writer's room for this. Just the other day, I made a video saying The Mandalorian needs a writer's room. It can't always be Favreau and Filoni. They need some outside voices contributing to the wider story. Andor Season 1 had a phenomenal writer's room, and look how well written that show was. Skeleton Crew is expected to have the same, and now The Acolyte. And even though this has gotten a bad rap, and we'll come onto this in just a moment, I think a plethora of different creative voices is a good thing for a show like this. A groundbreaking series exploring a new era of the timeline. A dynamic new series needs that. Now back in June of 2021, there was some controversy surrounding this very topic, talking about the writers that Leslye Headland surrounded herself with. There was a sensationalized headline about a writer who'd never seen any Star Wars movie. Do you remember this? It didn't sound great, and it didn't give a good impression, but now we understand why. She wanted a variety of different opinions, those who'd seen Star Wars and are familiar, are diehards, and those with very little experience. Part of the creative process, this was never going to be someone who was going to write the entire show. They were acting as if that person was the showrunner. Leslye Headland said, quote, "Mostly what I looked for were people who I felt could execute a great script, number one. And then in the job interview, just really talking to people who had different life experiences than I did, and had different connections to Star Wars than I did. I didn't want a writer's room full of Star Wars diehards. It was important to mix writers with different connections to the franchise. And so she wanted a different creative angle. It wasn't that that person was going to dictate the whole thing, and let's just wait and see. If the show ends up being terrible and it breaks Star Wars lore, and is all over the place, then we can look at this and say, you know what, this was a bad move." So let's go through these one by one. Episode 1 is written by Leslye Headland herself, the showrunner. Episode 2 was written by Jason Micallef and Charmaine de Gratte, the latter being known for House of the Dragon. Episode 3, written by Jasmine Flournoy and Eileen Shim. Episode 4, Claire Keischel and Cora Dana. Episode 5, Cora Dana again, and Cameron Squires. Episode 6 by Jason Micallef and Jocelyn Bayo. Episode 7 written by Charmaine de Gratte, Jen Richards and Jasmine Flournoy. And finally Episode 8, Jason Micallef, who also worked on Heathers and co-wrote episodes 2 and 6. But looking at this new list of writers, I think it's pretty awesome. All of these people seem well qualified. If we're strictly talking about her dedication to the franchise, her love of Star Wars, I'm very hopeful and keeping my fingers crossed. This is going to be a great dark side show. Now, did you know The Acolyte was intended to be an entry point that Kathleen Kennedy has wanted to explore for years, originally as an excuse for a younger Yoda exploring some of his past. explaining how his influence shaped the way the Jedi High Council is by the time of The Phantom Menace. Given Yoda's going to appear in the High Republic game Star Wars Eclipse, I have every reason to believe he's also going to appear in the Acolyte. And in terms of casual fans, you kind of need someone like Yoda, because most of the audience who's watching the show hasn't read the High Republic books. So for those fans, they need an anchor, they need an entry point into the High Republic, a familiar face, a familiar character that helps them navigate and pinpoint where in the timeline we are. I get the impression based on a lot of these comments that the series is set during the end of the High Republic era, between 100 to 50 years before the events of the Phantom Menace. So maybe in season 2, and I have every reason to believe there will be a second season, we get a baby Palpatine, or something else major that connects this to the Phantom Menace, which by the way, Leslye Headland is adamant on connecting it to. And to me as a fan of episode 1, I'm hoping for Duel of the Fates style lightsaber battles. We know there are going to be struggles with light and dark, fulfilling one's destiny and potential in the Force, with a slant towards the Sith, so I also expect with this territory, fun lightsaber battles. So that, my dear friends, is the bulk of the Acolyte news. Now we also have some more Star Wars updates, this one pertaining to descriptions for upcoming shows. Some fans took a Star Wars survey, and in those, they discovered some upcoming titles descriptions. So we've seen the one for Skeleton Crew, but just to reinstate, it says this: 4 kids make a mysterious discovery on their home planet that leads them to get lost in a strange and dangerous galaxy. But this next one, for Andor Season 2, is new. The second season continues Cassian Andor's journey to discover the difference he can make. The series brings forward the tale of the burgeoning rebellion against the Empire and how people and planets became involved. It's an era filled with danger, deception and intrigue, where Cassian will embark on the path that is destined to turn him into a rebel hero. Now I understand there's nothing too juicy in this, but it's the first time Disney Plus has officially given us anything for the second season of the show. I do hope this releases in 2024, but I'm very doubtful, given delayed talks on the strikes, and as we go into this festive period, given there was still a month or 2 to film, I don't expect the second season until 2025. I've said this before. But with that said, my dear friends, share your thoughts on everything we spoke about in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. May the Force be with you, always.